4 years ago, the He for She campaign was kicked off by the UN Women entity of the United Nations. It's founded on the idea that women's equality and safety requires the engagement of men and boys as well. With Goodwill ambassador and Hollywood star Emma Watson as its spokeswoman, the campaign's initial goal of mobilizing the first 100,000 men was met within just 3 days. Here in Ukraine, men and boys are proudly saying that they are for she as well.
Once we received a message from a man who wrote to us after he heard on the radio about the He for She campaign. The message said that for the first time in several years, he decided to knock on his neighbor's door, from which every evening he heard crying of a woman being beaten by a man, her husband. For the first time in his life, he stood up for the protection of this woman and called the police.
Among the high-profile men who support the initiative are Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon, NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg, and former U.S. President Barack Obama. Heads of large corporations and businessmen also joined the campaign. In Ukraine, one of the initiators and advocates of the campaign for gender equality was the singer and composer Dmytro Shurov.
I stand for the most civilized and progressive society. I have been working fruitfully with women all my life. At one point, all the managers who worked with me were women. My sister sings in my musical band. I see how cool it is when men and women work together on equal terms. And I don't understand why it happens so rarely in other spheres of life, except for show business.
The ambassador of Sweden was the first among diplomats in Ukraine to support the He for She campaign. Martin Hagstrom says that in his native country, the issue of gender equality is among the top priorities of the state.
One thing that has been very important in Sweden has been focus on parental leave, in trying to make both fathers and mothers feel responsible and take care of children. And in Sweden, that has, so we're still not, it's still a situation where women are more involved, take more parental leave, but for each year it's growing, the percentage that men take out.
The current president of the European Commission, Jean-Claude Juncker, has promised to increase the number of women occupying a commissioner post up to 40%. He intends to do this before the end of his term of office in October 2019. In Ukraine, the percentage of women working in politics still remains low. For example, there are only 53 women among people's deputies. This is slightly over 12%.
Here in Ukraine, there has been a lot of progress in opening up positions and jobs in the defense sector. However, there are still many jobs that are not accessible to women currently. For example, if you look at NATO countries, most, if not all, NATO countries will have generals who are women. In Ukraine, unfortunately, at this moment, that is not the case. There are many colonels in the Ukrainian armed forces and defense forces, but not yet a general. And with such large armed forces, that is somewhat of an anomaly.
Outdated views about women's fragility were behind a law that excluded women from jobs seen as being unsafe. These included construction worker, machinist, and metro driver. But pushed by women and their male allies, the Ministry of Health abolished the law in 2017, opening up these positions to anyone fit for the job.